I'd like to call the Onslow County Board of Commissioners meeting for February 17th, 2025 to order at this time. I'd like to ask our Assistant County Manager, Mr. Ben Warren, to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Chairman. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you to conduct the business of Onslow County. Lord, this month as we celebrate Black History Month, we praise the contributions of our local African American residents and recognize their central role in the history of the United States and in our community. May all we do this day bring you honor and glory. Amen. Now, with deep respect and reverence for the faiths, beliefs, and traditions of those gathered here today, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to take a minute to recognize the elected officials with us this evening. We have Ms. Amiga Jarman, our Register of Deeds, with us this evening. We have Mayor Pete Parnian from Holly Ridge, and with him is Councilman from Holly Ridge, Mr. Walter Zawicki. And then, of course, always at the back with us on Monday nights is Honorable Sheriff Chris Thomas. So we appreciate all of you being with us this evening. Thank you for that. We'll go down to item 1, looking for a adoption of tonight's agenda.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include the nonprofit tourism and agency funding policy as general item 6B, that's item 1. Item 2, amend the agenda to include a closed session after item 9 in accordance with the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11. And number 3, to amend the consent agenda to move item 2E, resolution 25-004, from the consent agenda to the actual agenda to support House Bill 24 to item number 7 on our regular agenda, please.
Okay. We have a motion to amend the agenda.
Second.
I have a second. Discussion.
Yeah, quick discussion item. 2 items for me. One is the strategic plan. I still feel strongly that we need to do better at getting these kind of things out to our municipalities and communicating with them. I know there was a plan to do so, and unfortunately that didn't come to fruition. I'm sure it was something inadvertent, but I would still like to see us do better at communicating with our mayors and our councils with all of our municipalities. And 2 is several things being added to the agenda tonight. I know there was a lot of administrative details going on this week that out of the ordinary, but I would personally, as a commissioner, and I'm only speaking for John Davis, no one else, but I'd like to see us have more time to review these things, getting the agenda on Friday and then having to be ready for today. And then we got these last couple things put on our plate here a few minutes ago. So that's my commentary for that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to amend the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we have amended the agenda. Now we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been approved.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I did forget that Mr. Jamie wanted to talk about some of his things up there. It's an inside joke, but Jamie, you're good to go, man.
Okay. We need a approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So I believe that will bring us to public comment, and that we ask all that are here in attendance to go back to the old cell phone policy of making sure that is on silent or vibrate, And we do obviously offer one opportunity for the public to speak during the meeting, and those comments should be limited to no more than 5 minutes and may be on any issue upon which the commissioners have control. In accordance with the board's adopted rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period on the agenda. With that being said, Mr. Smitherman, do we have anyone sign up for public comment?
We do, Mr. Chairman. The first speaker is Ari Reckwitz.
The timer will cut me off, and I'll continue next meeting. I know the county is making progress, and I offer extra gratitude to heroes promoting unity while fighting against white supremacy and all abuses of power. I have more to say, but I am too tired for this part of the fight, and I will need the time I'm not volunteering to prepare for my return to give Canada a second chance at restorative justice. If they deny me, I will return as what Buddhists call bodhisattva, and I will return with my war pen and my peace pipe to continue educating you in person. Call, write, and visit legislators and social justice lawyers. We need change. Let us honor Reverend Dr. King beyond the day of service by echoing that riots are the language of the unheard, and injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If you spit on a fire and say every bit helps, fire will consume you too. Patting your backs for finally providing passable wages for staff or allowing people you insult bigger decks without sustainably improving overall living conditions is spitting on a generations-old fire fueled by capitalism, fascism, and white supremacy. A peaceful reminder, not a threat. Kindly, willingly share privilege for common good instead of perpetuating injustice until it's too little too late. Donovan Hatch's family needs more than thoughts and prayers right now. They need justice. I met Donovan at the Board of Education, whom I also reminded to stop violating people's civil rights as the county commission does with proselytizing invocations. His son sustained a concussion from a fire extinguisher during a science class. I did not need or want fresh examples to illustrate the harm you're doing, but Onslow County delivered. Learn more about Donovan's story at WCTI 12. As all levels of government use our data with or without consent, equitably distributed universal basic income is reasonable compensation. Though I may not owe financial debt accrued based on the spirit of state and federal education law, I owe people of color a better ally, and so does Onslow County. I say ally, but I am definitely multi-ethnic and likely multiracial. I don't see those categories on government forms, though, which we are overburdened with completing. I don't want to be other, which is usually the only option that makes room for blended identity. So I usually chose white because of your cruelly designed systems. I have paid with my life. In Onslow County, I live in a gilded cage of non-physical violence, Christian fascism, and white supremacy. Anywhere else, I fight too hard, unwillingly accept inequitably distributed resources, and ooze even more toxicity because I cannot thrive as a human being. I only eat food to avoid the intense rage induced by the physical pain of starvation unless I become emotionally overwhelmed enough to succumb to my binge disorder or choose to eat for social bonding purposes, for which I too often choose to violate my vegan preference. I want to die, but not in a starvation-induced rage fit. People tell me to be safe, and I have to fight not to laugh. I have no kind response for how are you, and people ask everywhere. Politeness is a tool of oppression. Choose kindness. Scavengers are a valuable part of any sustainable ecosystem, as I was talking about last time. As are sex workers, adult entertainers, members of the LGBTQ+ community, people with disabilities, and people of color. Practice compersion, the emotional opposite of jealousy. Legalize and legitimize sex work and polygamy, and encourage development of healthy, respectful, sex-positive relationships. Authors of The Ethical Slut and the Multi-Amory podcast share healthy, ethical ways to engage in short and long-term intimate relationships with one partner and multiple partners. Like scavenging, sex work, and polyamory are not for everyone. If you only deny yourself to honor your faith, or you do it only in secret, don't take your frustrations out on the community. Don't stigmatize and criminalize behaviors to penalize people different than you. A sheriff at the Onslow County Black History Festival asked if I got the comedy in asking him to sign in uniform showing his face while I wore my vote mask. I get the irony. It's not funny, but I did not claw his face. Donate the Onwassa land to the NAACP for its intended use when deeded to the county in 1919. How did it get to Onwassa in the first place? Okay. and now I've lost my place. A sheriff watched me unload my bike when I got back the last night, too. I saw him watching me from the turn lane. I could see his tiny glowing screen before he pulled a U-turn. Whether he was providing unrequested security detail or confirming the address of a mentally unstable terrorist, how is spying on me a reasonable use of tax dollars? Once I processed one person's freedom fighter is another's terrorist, humanity appealed less and less. The sheriff's office participated in intimidating the Board of Election staff to cease referring to the 2024 primary election day situation where poll workers were held hostage at the Morton's precinct as a hostage situation. I can't remember the county's position, so I will not accuse you here, but the State Board of Elections participated too. Toss the insurrectionists in the White House and Guantanamo Bay until you close all penal institutions. Put me on the same electromechanical bird if you need. An extended stay in Hermosa, Cuba will be a new experience.
Thank you. Mr. Smithman?
Yes, sir. Our next speaker is Taylor Green.
Jeez.
How you doing? Taylor Green. Well, I'm back about this gun range because they were too close to they were shooting too close to a home located on the property, so now they've triangulated a piece that's 538 feet from my stepdaughter's house to 518 feet from that, and now they've started shooting. Today, they shot over 1,000 rounds between 9 and 12. They've shot every single hour today from about 10 minutes to 9 till the time we left at 5 o'clock. So, I've been told that the ordinance reads if they have an existing range, we have almost 8 acres back there that we can't build a house on now because it'll be within 200 feet of where they shoot. So they don't have a gun range, but they have a practice area. They're just shooting, so they can be 500 feet away. But at the end of that statement, it says, well, if they have an existing range, they can continue to shoot if we build something back there. So, but they don't have a gun range. Well, they have to be 1,000 feet away if they have a gun range. So there's a hole in that, and we now have 8 acres that's not worth anything. So unless you change the ordinance, 500 feet is way too close to have a target range. And we're not talking about just any target range. We're talking about a professional. They have metal targets, they have lanes, they have a range safety officer. They take cash donations. It's not just shooting. It's not somebody out back shooting. It's outrageous. It's a nuisance. You can't sit in your house and have peace. You can't watch a movie without hearing gunfire. I know what these poor people in other countries do when they're being shot at, when there's war going on. That's what it sounds like. You wonder if it's friendly fire. 538 feet away, 1,000 rounds in 3 hours. How would you feel? So at what point does it become a commercial range versus it says recreational. What's a recreational range? It should be 1,000 feet away from a house. So they do this and they skirt, and it's getting worse and worse. Now that the sheriff's department's been out there and they have it located where it's 538 feet and 518 feet, it's going to get worse. Summer's coming. They'll be out there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have a video of them shooting at 9:30 at night on that range. It's not going to stop. So unless you do something about it, at some point, people are going to suffer. So, they have an existing range. Well, no, they don't. They just go out and target shoot. It's friends and family. It's not a commercial thing. Well, they have 80 or 90 friends and family who shoot 7 days a week. And we're talking about all day. It's not a little bit. It's not Jim Bob's backyard range where they go out and sight in a rifle and shoot 10 times. So thank you. I'd appreciate it if you would talk about it and make change and make positive change because it affects people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Mr. Smithman?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Chris Thomas is our next speaker.
Good evening. I'm Chris Thomas, obviously the sheriff here in Onslow County. This is really nothing business-wise, but I wanted, some of you are old enough to remember Sheriff Thomas Marshall. I know Tony is on the end down there and Tim is in the center. And I just want to take just a short minute to wish Kathleen Marshman happy birthday. Tomorrow's her 100th birthday, and she is still with us. She still lives here in Onslow County in the family home, and I just want to take a minute to tell her happy birthday. So, ma'am, happy birthday.
Thank you, Sheriff Thomas.
Mr. Chairman, that's the conclusion of our public comment period.
All right, we will move to item 4, presentations, and Mr. Ben Warren will read the first proclamation tonight.
All right, thank you, Chairman. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow, Proclamation, Black History Month 2025. Whereas in 1976, Black History Month was formally adopted to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout our American experience, which goes back thousands of years and includes some of the greatest, most advanced, and innovative societies in our history that we can all draw inspiration from. And whereas each February, we pause to reflect on the contributions of the African American community to our national and local identity, and Black History Month allows us to learn more about this pivotal part of our nation's story. And whereas, as a result of their determination, hard work, and perseverance, African Americans have made valuable and lasting contributions to the County of Onslow and our state, achieving exceptional success in all aspects of society, including business, education, politics, science, and the arts. And whereas we join with all Americans in celebrating our diverse heritage and culture and continuing our efforts to protect democracy for all people and recognizing the vital achievements of our local African American residents. And whereas during Black History Month, all Americans are encouraged to reflect on past successes and challenges of African Americans and look to the future to continue to improve society so that we live up to the ideals of freedom, equality, and justice. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners acknowledges February 2025 as Black History Month in Onslow County, presented the 17th day of February 2025. Representatives from the Black History Committee will accept the proclamation, and the chairman has requested that Commissioner Davis present the proclamation.
I think they want to take a picture of it. All right, and I think you have something coming up big this weekend?
We do. Ms. Ingrid's going to tell you about
All
it.
right, so I'm going to give the microphone to you, and
Thank you very much. First, I'd
you
like
want me
to
to
say.
hold that for you?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good?
Hang on
Okay.
to mine. So I'll let Lucretia hold that. First of all, we, the Black History Committee and Parks and Rec, would like to thank our county commissioners for this wonderful proclamation and for standing up and standing by us through this. And it's every year it's gotten a little bit bigger. So if you have not seen it, Sunday, the 23rd, we will be at Northside High School from 5 to 8. We're putting on a wonderful presentation. It's free. We're going to give you some food. We're going to give you lots of enjoyment, let you sit back and relax. I'm just excited. We're going to have our youth, our young step teams from our local schools and our bands from our local schools. So we're asking everybody to come out and support and just come and enjoy. We have a very special entertainment for you. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he is an artist, and he will draw a painting in 10 minutes, and he does it upside down. Cool. Music. It's going to be amazing. So come out and see it. The other thing I'd like to do, and I hope it's okay, we'd like to thank Carrie, who is, for DSS, she is our Assistant County Manager, and Ben Warren, who is for Parks and Rec. Those two have been instrumental in helping us and letting us continue and expand in our Black history. It's very educational. Please come out and enjoy if you've never been there. Okay? Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davis, and I will point out that Mr. Kenyatta Uring is here with us tonight, too. He is the local president of the NAACP here in Onslow County, so it's good to see Kenyatta out here tonight. Thanks for coming tonight, sir. Okay, we'll move into our, make sure I've got all the amendments here correct. We'll move to item 5, public hearings, and we'll start with our first one. And Mr. Metcalf, I think you can come on up and begin the process of our public hearings.
Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and our Onslow County Board of County Commissioners. Our first item before you tonight is the Queens Ridge rezoning request, PRZ 2024, number 31. The applicant is Tidewater Associates Incorporated, and the owner is SR International Holdings, LLC. An overview of the request is from residential 10 to community business, with tax map number 1314-107.13 in question. It's located on Queens Creek Road and is in the Swansboro Township. Now, the rezoning area is 4.3 acres of the total 10.10 acre parcel. So it is a split zoning request, and the existing use is that the land is forested and vacant. We look at utilities, we can see there's a 6-inch unwashed water main and an 8-inch sewer force main along Queens Creek Road. The fire service for the area is Northeast Onslow, and our latest traffic count comes from 2022. Traffic count was at 9,000 trips. Staff estimates the capacity of Queens Creek Road at 14,600. Schools serving the property are Queens Creek Elementary, Swansboro Middle School, and Swansboro High School. So we look at the property, you can see there is currently zoned residential 10 and is there in orange. You can see there's a variety of other zonings in the nearby area, but all of those are residential in nature. When we look at the current zoning district is for residential 10, and it's to accommodate moderate density single family and limited multifamily in our urbanizing areas of the county. It's a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet and has a multifamily density of 10 units per acre. As we compare to the proposed zoning district of community business, its purpose is to accommodate the establishment of small-scale retail and service uses that would serve that nearby community. There's no minimum lot size, but the multifamily density is the same. The comprehensive plan is suburban growth, and its purpose is to provide for that moderate density residential development and supporting non-residential development on the fringes of our municipalities and their associated urban growth areas. So we compare the land use and development summaries, which is kind of, again, some of the guidance as we look at rezoning requests. We look at that non-residential component. So commercial uses that would support neighborhoods in suburban growth are typically found along arterials and or at major intersections. And again, it's typically that it's going to support that neighborhood community. Here you can see our future land use map. That more goldish hue in color is our suburban growth, while the blue is that waterside community category. We're looking at our environmental conditions. There are regulated flood zones on the property. You can see their pitch hole branch. There is a regulated blue line stream there at the rear of the property, as well as the regulated flood zone of AE. No wetlands delineations have been submitted to county staff, but that would be reviewed through the appropriate development process. The rezoning could be considered reasonable. It could be considered reasonable and in the public interest because community business is an appropriate zoning district to the suburban growth category. Specifically, as we look at its location there, it's along a major road for the Queens Creek area. It's literally on Queens Creek Road. As well as also consistent with the character of the area. There is some commercial uses just up the road there at the bend of Queens Creek and Smallwood. And as well, there's also supported by those 5 objectives in the comprehensive plan. The proposed rezoning could be considered unreasonable because residential 10 already aligns with the future land use map. So really the question before the board would be, is the change from residential to commercial appropriate? Because both zoning districts would be appropriate by the future land use map. January 2nd of this year, the Onslow County Planning Board met and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. The applicant was present for the meeting and spoke to the board. One citizen spoke on the application and they inquired about traffic in the area. Most of their concerns were around the Queens Creek Bridge and their concern around it to handle traffic volumes. That is in the preparation of being replaced. However, it is a few years out, but county staff continues to be in conversation with NCDOT about that timing, but they are working towards that end of replacing that bridge. And no military impacts were presented, though, during the planning board meeting. The remarks of the chairman of the planning board states as follows. The owner wishes to rezone the property from R10 to CB. The parcels are adjacent to current R10, R15, R5, and RA zoning. We heard objections from one citizen along with one written request to deny. Their concerns were traffic. The rezoning would apply to 4.3 acres of a 10.10 acre tract. The property is currently being subdivided, and this would not result in a split zone situation. It is determined that the rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. Here you can see an aerial of the request, and again, that hashed area is the rezoning area in question for tonight. And a little bit of a closer look there. You can see, again, the property is partially forested, partially vacant. So we posted the sign there along Queens Creek Road in prominent view for the public. And that's what the property kind of looks like today. It's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the proposed zoning map amendment of Period Z 2024 number 31 and adopt a statement of consistency for the amendment and authorize the chairman to sign necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf. Now we'll open the public hearing. Mr. Smitherman, do we have anyone to speak?
Yes, we do, sir. Josh Edmondson.
Commissioner. Thank you, Josh Edmondson, 306 Newbridge Street with Tidewater Associates. We did submit this request on behalf of the developer. As Carter said, the intent is to use this to provide small-scale retail and service opportunities for this community. That is our main intent. Obviously, we do know that traffic is of a concern in this area. However, as is typical with our experience, the type of retail on the level, small-scale level that we're intending on placing here really would not add that many trips. It's really intended to cater to those folks already in this area. So we wouldn't expect or see too many people, for example, from Swansboro coming to what's provided here because it's already available in Swansboro. You may have some additional trips, however, it wouldn't be like a typical commercial site on a larger scale. Happy to answer any questions that you guys may have for us when the time is appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
There are no other speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Just one quick call. Anyone like to speak on this rezoning? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing at this time and bring it to the commissioners.
Motion approved.
Have a motion to
Second.
approve and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Metcalf, if you wouldn't have brought it up, I was maybe not going to say it, but
Sure.
but you did bring it up, so now I was encouraged to say it. So you mentioned the municipality in your brief to us. How did you include that into your thought process in improving or suggesting that we approve this?
So just clarifying for the question in regards to how am I referencing the municipality, sir?
I feel like you said in your presentation that you used the municipality's plan or something to...
Yes. So with the future land use map, we located our municipalities. We know where they are. And then from there, we did the urban growth category, so putting our highest density against our municipalities. From there, we went out to suburban growth, so decreasing density as we get away from the municipalities. And that's a benefit to the Onslow County citizens as it lowers any sort of cost for infrastructure. It keeps folks close together, which can eventually promote walkability. And again, it provides assets because you're already close to existing services. And the flip side is it helps preserve our rural character of the county by promoting density closer to the municipalities. So that's kind of where we're referencing our proximity to the municipality was just really with that suburban growth category.
Okay. And so this is probably not a fair question, so bear with me on this one is, do we have a process in place that when we're developing something or have something going through the planning process that notifies the municipality that might be affected by it?
No, we do not because it's our jurisdiction. However, when municipalities have reached out, we have been very open and transparent with the development going on. I know at times we've had conversations with North Topsail Beach about what's going on in Steens Ferry. So when those dialogues have begun, we've been the best partner we can be, but we do not notify them of our development activities.
Yeah, okay, cool. And thank you for that. And I'm just curious, because I know in the town municipality situation, you do one thing and it may be different in the county. Do we send out notifications to the neighboring, or is it only the sign?
So for rezonings, so all property owners within 300 feet got a letter for planning board and the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
We placed a sign both times, and then we notified in the Jacksonville Daily News on 2 consecutive weeks, so once a week, prior to this hearing as well. So there's 5 opportunities for folks to engage, plus it was up on our website as well.
Great, great. As always, you do excellent work, so thank you for bearing with my questions.
Absolutely, happy to, Commissioner.
Any more discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. Metcalf?
Should have probably just stood up here and stayed. All right. The second item before the board tonight for the rezoning cases is the Perez rezoning request of PRAZ 2024 number 32. The applicant is also Tidewater and Associates, but the owner is Pastor Perez Antigua. So we look at an overview of the request is from rural agriculture to residential 10. 2 tax map numbers in question of 55-3 and 55-4. It's located on Gum Branch Road in the Jacksonville Township. The total rezoning area across both parcels is 22.07 acres, and the existing use is predominantly vacant for one of the tax map properties, while the other has a residential component. Look at the services from the area. There's a 14-inch Onwassa water main and a 10-inch Onwassa sewer force main along Gum Branch Road. The fire service for the area is Half Moon with an ISO rating of 4. And our most recent traffic count comes from 2023 with a traffic count of 12,500. Staff estimates the capacity of Gum Branch for a level service D road at 12,900. The schools serving the area are Stateside Elementary, Northwoods Middle School, and Jacksonville High School. According to our current estimates, all 3 schools would have capacity. Here you can see the zoning map. You can see the adjacent residential 10. Again, the property there hatched in black, which is currently zoned rural agriculture. Comparison of the 2 districts, rural agriculture is a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, and its purpose is to maintain a rural development pattern that preserves the agricultural character of the county while accommodating limited low-density single-family and limited commercial uses. So we compare to the proposed zoning district of residential 10, it's to accommodate moderate density single-family and limited multifamily residential developments in our urbanizing areas of the county. It's minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, and would allow a multifamily density of up to 10 units per acre, as opposed to rural agriculture has a 20,000 square foot lot size and no multifamily. Look at the comprehensive plan is in the suburban growth category, and its intent and purpose is to provide for moderate density residential development and supporting non-residential development on the fringes of the municipalities and their associated urban growth areas. So we look at the land use development summary, we look at the residential component, and it's single-family residential developments, primarily within major subdivisions, but we would expect a density of 4 to 5 dwelling units per acre, or a multifamily 8 to 10. You can see here the entire property is in the suburban growth category, as well as this entire section of Gum Branch Road. As we look at our environmental conditions, there is the nearby stream of Rock Branch, just touches the very edge of one of the properties, but there was no regulated flood zones and no wetlands have been submitted to the county at this time. The property's rezoning could be considered reasonable and in the public interest because residential 10 would be an appropriate zoning district to the suburban growth future land use category, consistent with the character of the area and nearby uses. Supported by Onslow County Comprehensive Objectives 1.1 and 2.4. 1.1 is we're utilizing our future land use map when making rezoning decisions, and 2.4 coordinating with our school system as it relates to growth. The proposed rezoning may be considered unreasonable due to objectives 1.2 and 1.5. 1.2, it speaks to proactively managing growth and guiding new development to areas of the county with existing or planned infrastructure that would sufficient carrying capacity. And 1.5 speaks to us being mindful of areas of the county that have growth pressure. At Planning Board, they reviewed the rezoning at January 2nd of 2025. That is a typo. It was not last year. And they voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. The applicant was present for the meeting, and no citizens spoke against it. No military impacts were presented during the Planning Board meeting, and the remarks from the chairman of the Planning Board are as follows. The owner wishes to rezone the property from RA to R10. The parcel is surrounded by RA, R10, and some R15 across the road. There was no public comment. The board found the rezoning to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use map. Here you can see an overview of the area as the property relates in proximity to both Stateside as well as the neighborhood of Rock Creek. You can zoom in there and see again the property in question.
Yeah, I've got one. Just out of curiosity, your slide says that it is not supported by the comprehensive plan, yet you make another comment that says it is consistent with our comprehensive plan. Which is it?
So it would be consistent with the comprehensive plan in terms of the future land use map. There's two objectives in the comprehensive plan that would potentially speak against approving the rezoning, but there are two that support it. So the two that support it say it aligns with our future land use map. The ones against it speak to we have to be mindful as we approve rezonings in areas of the county that are already have strained infrastructure.
I'm just curious because the slide makes it very clear that it is not supported by our comprehensive plan. I'm just trying to distinguish or differentiate between the wording. If it's not supported by the comprehensive plan in one particular area, then it's consistent in another area. It's kind of confusing, so which is it?
I would say,
Carter, if I may suggest, could you bring that slide up? Thank you.
sure. So here with the future land use map, it is consistent. R10 would be an appropriate category to suburban growth. So that is in terms of where we would want to see different types of rezonings, that part aligns. The part that does not align is that there are aspects of the infrastructure along Gum Branch Road, which is what the property fronts on, that are nearing capacity, such as traffic. And that was part of the conversation that the board had. However, the future land use map recommended approval, and that's where Planning Board landed.
I'm not making a big deal of that. I think this last slide that you're showing up now, because, when I see that, looking at something and analyzing a sentence, that says it's not reasonable or not supported, maybe there should be some more clarification in what you're saying in that last paragraph so that can make me understand what you just said, that it was consistent. See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That should be clarified.
Sure. We can absolutely look at that and in future presentations make adjustments.
Okay.
Here's a picture of the sign that we posted there in view of Gum Branch Road. And that's a broader look there at the property there to the right and the left. Again, there was an existing residential structure. It's respectfully requested the Board of Commissioners consider the proposed zoning map amendment of PRZ 2024, number 32, and adopt a statement of consistency for the amendment and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation. And are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf. We'll now open the public hearing. Mr. Smitherman, do we have anyone to speak?
We do. Josh Edmondson is signed up to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Josh Edmondson, 306 New Bridge Street, Tidewater Associates. Yeah, we're just, again, looking to kind of infill with what's going on around us based on development patterns in this area of R10. We do, again, understand traffic is of concern with any development, especially medium density potential. If this was approved, once we get to our site plan point and submit that, obviously NCDOT is going to review that and probably make suggestions about improvements that will need to happen along this particular section of Gum Branch Road. I do believe, and Mr. Metcalf can correct me if I'm wrong, that this part of Gum Branch Road is in the STIP for improvements. I'm not sure how far down the line you're looking, but I do know that I believe this section of Gum Branch is in the STIP for improvements. And I'd also like to just point out, to the north of this property, the owner who's requesting the rezoning, he actually owns those properties. You may have saw them on the aerial. They're 2 Spanish-style houses. All those properties are owned by the owner. So he is using this, obviously, as an opportunity to invest for the future of his family, right there close to him. So that's what we're looking to do. Again, happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is that the only speaker, Mr. Smitherman?
No one else has signed up to speak.
One last call to the audience that would like to speak. Having none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it to the commissioners to decide. Commissioners,
To approve.
you got a motion
Second.
and a second. All in discussion or any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, motion carries. I think we're bringing you back up for your last rezoning for this evening. Mr. Metcalf?
Yes, sir. All right, it's the Aria Lane rezoning request of Piri Z 2024, number 34. The applicant is Tidewater and Associates Incorporated, and the owner is Morton Minerals Incorporated. So we've taken a look at the request. It's from residential 15 to rural agriculture. The tax map number in question is 1306-2.1, and it's located off of Aria Lane. There's a pending subdivision approval, I believe, but I'll defer to the applicant on that, where Aria Lane would terminate on that. So just to clarify that point, as we look at the maps, you won't see Aria Lane go all the way down there, but that's where the anticipated section of Peyton's Ridge would end at this property. It's located in the Swansboro Township, and the rezoning area is 20.36 acres, and the property is currently vacant and cleared. The water serving the property is, there's a 6-inch Onslow water line that is on Aria Lane and Misty Pond Drive. Obviously, with the expansion of any sort of subdivision, the water line would be continued. And the nearby properties are served by the individual septic systems. The fire service for the area is Northeast Onslow with an ISO rating of 4. And our most recent and closest traffic count came on Parkertown Road with a trip count of 3,100. Staff estimates the capacity of over 13,000. The schools serving the property are Swansboro Elementary, Swansboro Middle School, and Swansboro High School. Currently, both the elementary school and the middle school are over capacity, while the high school has capacity according to our current projections. Here you can see the zoning map with the property highlighted. And again, the Peyton's Ridge subdivision would essentially curve back around and go towards that property. And you can see the adjacent properties there to the west and south are rural agriculture. The current zoning is residential 15, and its purpose is to accommodate moderate density, single-family residential development in suburban areas of the county that have access to the necessary utility and transportation infrastructure at that suburban scale. Minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet. It's composed to rural agriculture. Its purpose is to maintain that rural development pattern that preserves the agricultural character of the county while allowing limited low-density single-family and commercial uses. Its minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet. So the rezoning request is technically a down zoning because it's going from 15,000 square feet to a 20,000. As we look at the comprehensive plan, the property was listed in the suburban growth category, and its purpose is to provide for the moderate density residential development and supporting non-residential development. And as we look at the land use map, the land use summary is for single-family residential development at a density of 4 to 5 dwelling units per acre, or allowing multifamily at a dwelling density of 8 to 10. Here you can see the future land use map. So the Peyton's Ridge subdivision there is in the suburban growth category. That suburban growth category is coming from the town of Swansboro. There's 2, there you can see pink properties, and they're listed in the infrastructure, energy, and extraction category. When that future land use category was designed, we took uses on the ground that were already in that category and gave them that future land use designation so that we could be mindful in moments such as this to help bring attention to what those uses are. So it is a property owned by the town of Swansboro there to the west that's leased to Onwassa. And then the property there to the south, I believe, is a borrow pit. Then you can see the rest of that area is the rural residential. So we went through the process. The Peyton's Ridge density aligned much more with the suburban growth category, so it was given that future land use designation. However, it is better to have more of a buffer against that future land use of IEE, because you don't want to put a lot of density there next to those type of uses. Since that's why you see the rural residential designation on the other sides. For environmental conditions, there are no blue line streams, regulated flood zones on the property, and any sort of wetlands would be submitted to county staff through any sort of development review process. Proposed rezoning could be considered reasonable because it's consistent with the character of the area and adjacent to the rural agriculture zoning, as well as supported by some objectives in the comprehensive plan. Again, we want to characterize future land use patterns to minimize conflict. We want to preserve our rural landscape and as well also protect any sort of airspace that is used by certainly Camp Lejeune. The property is in the flight path overlay. As well as also the rural agriculture zoning would provide a buffer between Peyton's Ridge and those adjacent uses. The proposed rezoning could be considered unreasonable because the residential 15 is a more appropriate category to suburban growth as comparative to the rural agriculture designation. So the question in terms of reasonableness or not is, should the future land use map be amended? Certainly that would be, if this rezoning were approved, we would amend the future land use map for this property to make it rural residential. But if the rezoning is denied, the future land use map would stay the same.
Is that a separate action?
It is all in the adoption ordinance.
Okay.
So at February 6th, 2025, the Onslow County Planning Board heard the rezoning and voted 5-1 to recommend denial of the request. They wanted to adhere to the Horizon 2040, which at that time, it was understood this property would be with the Peyton's Ridge subdivision, so it was given suburban growth category. The applicant was present for the meeting, but no citizens spoke against the request. No military impacts, though, were presented during planning board. Chairman of the planning board's remarks are as follows. The request was to downzone a parcel in Peyton's Ridge from R15 to RA. The rezoning would not be in compliance with the comprehensive plan and future land use map. Here you can see an aerial of not only the property, but the surrounding properties, and you can see there both to the south and the west, those properties that have the designation of energy extraction and infrastructure, as well as also that Peyton's Ridge subdivision. And there's a closer look at the property. It's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the proposed zoning map amendment of Period Z 2024, number 34, adopt a statement of consistency for the amendment, and authorize the chairman to sign the necessary documents on behalf of the county. This concludes the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf. We'll now open the public hearing. Do we have anyone to speak?
Yes, sir, we do. Josh Edmondson.
It's good seeing you, Josh.
I think this is the last
Long time.
one for tonight.
Long
Josh
time no
Jefferson,
see.
306 New Bridge Street. So again, I can't see the map, but initially this property, the larger property was bought after Peyton's Ridge was platted and started to be developed. So at one time, the property was all one property, and at that time, the developer intended to potentially develop all the property as a section of Peyton's Ridge. Since then, they have subdivided the property in that southern portion, which we're asking for, again, to add sort of a buffer to the mining and different other intensive activities going on to the west and south, has decided it would not be in best interest to put medium-density residential that close to some of those uses. So RA actually allows additional uses other than just, single-family development. There's some other ag uses, horse stables, different things that may be better used on this portion of the property. Understanding that the future land use map doesn't have it as suburban growth, but also understanding it is right there on the fringe of that rural residential. So we would hope that, again, the future land use map could potentially be, amended if so choose to rezone. Happy to answer any questions that anybody may have for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that the last speaker?
That's the last speaker to sign up, Mr. Chairman.
We'll open it up to anyone else that would like to speak on this rezoning during this public hearing. We have none. We will close the public hearing and take this to the commissioners. We have a motion to approve.
I've got a question. Mr. Metcalf, can you give me the reasons, specific reasons as why the planning board disapproved it?
We have a motion
Let's
on the
go
floor,
ahead
Mr.
and
Chair.
we'll finish the motion, then we'll get into that discussion. So we have a motion. Do we have a second to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, Mr. Commissioner, Vice
Yeah,
Chair.
can you give me a specific reason? I know I heard what you said, and I heard what his rationale was. I'm just curious why was it a 5-1 decision? What was the reasoning for not approving this?
So the board discussed at planning board, their discussion was brief, but essentially they did not want to go against the plan. Meanwhile, it is the Board of Commissioners' decisions of whether or not to go against the plan. It is, the county's plan is your plan. So certainly us to adjust the plan, is certainly appropriate for the board. Planning board simply thought that their role was to follow the plan. But questions of changing the plan more should come from this board unless you directed them to do otherwise.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Metcalf. Any more discussion? You mentioned the infrastructure mining, what was?
Extraction.
Extraction.
Yes.
So does RA allow for that to take place?
It would, depending on the size. So 1 acre and below would be by right, but 1 acre and larger would be a special use permit, in which case there'd be a quasi-judicial hearing. All property owners within 300 feet would be notified at that point.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
So the motion to approve this has been denied.
Right, and we'll need a motion to deny it then.
Okay?
I'll make a motion to deny the request.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to deny the request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
Those opposed was 2. So the motion to deny has been approved with the yays. Yay is 4 of us. Make sure I got that all correct. So I think this is probably one of those reasons or opportunities, Commissioner Paget, that we need to have some more discussion with our planning and our planning director and our planning board with conditional zoning in the future to do some of that. I think conditional rezoning would probably do a really good job of us being able to get some things taken care of. So with that being said, we need at some point, Mr. Smitherman, to have Carter do some work with us in discussing conditional rezoning. With that being said, we'll move to general items. The first one is Mr. Smitherman. I think you're up for the strategic plan.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'll wait for our visuals to change. So much of this presentation is for our public's benefit because the board and all of our employees have been engaged very much over the past year in creating a strategic plan for the organization. About a year ago, we created our vision and mission statements, followed shortly thereafter by core values, of which we have been working internally on developing those core values with all of our employees over the past 3 months. Next slide, please. So the board adopted our vision and mission statement about a year ago, and since that time, if we could go to the next slide, please. We have worked together to develop a plan around our 5 strategic focus areas that you adopted. We are going to be a fiscally responsible government, a high-performing government. We're going to encourage community vitality. We are going to focus on a sustainable future, and we will have a healthy and safe community. These are the 5 categories of which the plan has been developed. Over the past year, we have met with many stakeholders, received over 1,200 input surveys, another 100 input comments on our virtual whiteboard. And we developed, with your assistance, a set of goals and objectives for our strategic plan. And I'm not going to go through all the objectives. There's probably 10 per focus area, so there's probably 50 objectives that we're going to be working on over the next 5 years. But I do want to touch on one in each of the areas. In community vitality, we want to work better around figuring out how to serve our youth. We are the youngest county in North Carolina. We have an average age of 27. We have a lot of school-age children and young families, and we heard a lot from our community about needing better opportunities for youth services and youth recreational programming. So that is one of our objectives in community vitality, is to convene with the area stakeholders, both public, private, and nonprofit sectors, to figure out how we as a community can better serve our youth. Under focused and sustainable future, lots of conversations about managing the perilous dichotomy between the environment and development, between safety and development, and wise utilization of our land resources. So we have developed objectives around proactively managing growth and guiding new developments where infrastructure is already planned or existing. We don't want to overtax our infrastructure system by development, so we want to be smart as to where we allow that development to go, and we use our Horizon 24 plan to do that. We also want to work with our planning board, and you heard this evening comments from the planning board chairperson, but increasing the communication between this board and the planning board and making sure that our thoughts align as we make development decisions is one of your objectives going forward. We want to be a healthy and safe community, and one of the ways we want to do that is to better leverage our community paramedic service. There are a lot of positive outcomes that come from our community paramedicine service. We believe that if we do it differently, we can get exponentially more better outcomes. So we will be revisiting this community paramedicine model as early as this next budget period to redesign how we deploy community paramedic resources. We want to be a high-performing government, and one way we want to do that is to communicate better with our citizens, to provide better education to our citizens about what our county does and the services that we provide. This was a consistent theme throughout the public input gathering, that people don't know what we do, they don't know what services are available for them, and they don't know how to connect with us. So we will create new opportunities for our community to engage, give us feedback, and find ways to push information to the places they best receive it. And then finally, under being fiscally responsible, beginning in FY27, so it's a full budget cycle from now, the Finance Office and Administration will jointly, along with all of the department directors, jointly develop a 4-year budget model. Not an actual budget, but a plan of finance of where we believe our investments must go over the next 4 years to meet our strategic plan. That is also to provide our citizens with confidence that the tax rate will not change during that period and that we are prudent fiscal stewards of taxpayers' money by proactively planning a full revaluation cycle in advance as we develop our finances in the public sector of Onslow County government. I believe that was my final slide. So at this time, I'm going to read the resolution that we are asking you to adopt to make the 2025-2030 strategic plan the official strategic direction of the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. Whereas in April 2024, Onslow County government awarded a contract to Barry Dunn to facilitate the development of a 2025 to 2030 strategic plan. And whereas a strategic plan is a living document that defines the organization's reason for being and establishes a clear and compelling vision. It helps set a direction and focus and assist in aligning resources to accomplish strategic objectives, helping to ensure decisions, policies, plans, programs, and processes are all in alignment. And whereas the strategic plan development effort included extensive engagement with residents of Onslow County, including 66 stakeholder interviews, 3 community forums, more than 1,200 responses to a community survey, and over 100 public comments to help inform key areas of focus and played an integral role in the development of the plan. And whereas Barry Dunn conducted interviews with the Board of Commissioners, executive leadership, department leadership, and employees at all levels in the organization to gain insight into the areas of priority and need for the county. And whereas the Board of Commissioners and staff leadership participated in plan development sessions to define the core components of the plan, including mission, vision, strategic focus areas, objectives, and performance measures. And whereas the strategic plan has 5 strategic focus areas as well as objectives and performance measures for each priority, which are community vitality, focus and sustainable future, healthy and safe community, high-performing government, fiscally responsible. And whereas staff will create an implementation template to organize the actions needed to achieve and monitor progress on the strategic focus areas over the duration of the plan. And whereas the Board of Commissioners will receive regular updates on the status of specific objectives in the plan and also have an opportunity to formally review objectives as part of the budget development process. And whereas now therefore be it resolved, the Onslow County Board of Commissioners does hereby adopt the 2025 to 2030 strategic plan, and now therefore be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners considers the 2025-2030 strategic plan to be the guiding document for the county and desires that every employee be provided a copy thereof. And now therefore be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners desires that the annual budget be developed in a manner to optimize the probability of achieving the plan's adopted goals and objectives. And be it further resolved, the Board of Commissioners directs the county manager to take all appropriate actions necessary to implement the strategic plan throughout the county organization. Adopted the 17th day of February 2025. Mr. Chairman, this resolution is presented for the board's consideration.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say something that most people out there may not be privy to. The strategic plan is something that we did not have in the past. And we put our heads together. Actually, David came up with the idea with his staff, we need a strategic long-term plan. And when you look at the slide and you see all the objectives and see what we're trying to do as far as a county, we're trying to get ahead of the curve. In other words, we're trying to project out. We're not worried about now. We're projecting into the future. And this is a plan that we need to follow. That plan can be modified in the future, no doubt about it. It's a living document that we can change and edit in the future. But for what you put together, David, and then Miss Angie back there, who's in charge of our strategic plan, a well-deserved promotion, by the way. She's done an outstanding job on this. We've had a workshop on it. We've had many, many discussions on this, kind of tweaking it. And I'm really proud of what the commissioners have done because now we have a plan in place that we can objectively look at and know what direction this county is going in the future instead of haphazardly walking around trying to figure things out. And that's important to have a plan like that. And then, while you're pursuing this plan, if there's any tweaking that needs to be done, we can tweak it to make it better, or we can tweak it to remove something that is detrimental to the plan. So I just wanted to say my hat's off to you, David, your staff. Angie, outstanding job, outstanding what you did on the strategic plan and getting everything together. So my kudos to you, and I'm really happy to have this plan, and it's for everybody to see. The county can see it. You know what direction and what our goals are in the county, and that's important because that leads to transparency for the county and what we're trying to do for our citizens. So, well done.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, motion carries for the Onslow County 25 to 30 strategic plan. So now we are still under item 6, general items, and we have amended the agenda to add the nonprofit tourism and agency funding policy. So, Mr. Smitherman?
I'm going to ask Mary Grace Budaszewski to come up. She has been leading this effort on our behalf. We specifically wanted to do this as a general item tonight to project to the community how the process has changed and the important dates that they need to be aware of. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Super excited about this. I know that this has been in the works since I stepped into my role with the county in August. So it's been a lot of really great work and a lot of great discussion. And I thank you guys for all of the input. I'm here tonight to discuss the nonprofit tourism and agency funding grant that has been a yearly budget allocation to ensure adequate funding opportunities are presented to organizations in the community. This year, the program has been restructured to create a more efficient review and funding process. We've done this by breaking up the funding pot into a nonprofit application, a tourism-based application, and those outside non-governmental agency, giving them an opportunity to submit an application as well. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners review and approve the newly written grant policies and criteria for the nonprofit tourism and agency funding grant and approve for the application to open the week of February 17th, specifically tomorrow. It is ready to go. Marketing is on. They have everything ready to go, and we're looking at about a 3-week application window just because there is a lot less that we are requiring this year. It's a little bit more streamlined than it has been in the past.
Fantastic.
Did you say there's 3 dates for nonprofits to submit?
No, 3 separate applications.
Okay.
So it's 1 application for nonprofits, 1 for tourism, and 1 for those outside agencies.
Gotcha.
But it's all under one solicitation link that'll be on the county finance page.
Okay.
And I'm here to answer any questions if need be.
So we need a motion to.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you to Mary Grace. You have you light up the room, number one, when you walk in, your enthusiasm, but not only that, your level of detail and your work and your ability to express what you've done and communicate what the process is has been fantastic, outstanding even. So thank you for your work on this.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you know, nonprofit funding's been a challenge for us for many years, and I appreciate the work that y'all have done on this. I think this is going to help us to get through that process more efficiently, and I look forward to seeing how it works this year.
Anyone else? That you said, Mary Grace, this opens tomorrow, is that correct? Yep, you got it. So this, with our approval, this will open tomorrow. Will we be sending letters or information out to those in the past that have applied to remind them, or how's that going to take place? You can come up to you.
Projection's not as good. I have been in touch with last year's application pool that was funded under this program. They were notified last week of the application because I started to get a lot of inquiries about dates because we're a little bit behind than when it normally comes out, and people were going off of old dates that were still up on the website. So they have been notified of the change of the timeline a little bit, and that it was going to be a 3-week application period regardless of when it opened. And I have also been in touch with those who have inquired. I have a very long standing list, and an email has been drafted to them to go out for whenever the application, if approved, open tomorrow, they are going to be notified. Marketing has also been great in helping me take those emails and be able to use our county-wide communication system to also push that out with text messages, emails, so on and so forth, so that everybody's notified. And my information is plastered all over the document, so if anybody needs anything, my email, my direct office line's on there, and I'm more than happy to discuss.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Good job. I think it's noted too, David or Mr. Smitherman, not all counties do this. So we're one of the counties that actually open up, and we do work in supporting the nonprofits and and other things in here. So that's a good thing that Onslow County does, opposed to what some of the other counties do, is taking care of the local, helping as best we can to help take care of local agencies and the work that they do. So with that being said, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, motion carries. So we are moved to item 7, which is the resolution to support House Bill 24, and I believe that is going to be Mr. Metcalf again.
While Mr. Metcalf's coming up, this was pulled from your consent and added because this item is changing every day, if not multiple times a day. Mr. Metcalf was in Raleigh today and brought us new information, so we refreshed this resolution with the latest and greatest, and Carter will tell you what the latest and greatest is.
Absolutely. So as Mr. Smitherman said, was at the midwinter conference for the North Carolina Association of Zoning Officials today, and we had a whole hour presentation on Senate Bill 382 and the different measures that are moving forward towards its repeal. Just for the public's interest, 382 restricts local government's ability to change our zoning text and our zoning map. Essentially, we cannot decrease someone's development density, we cannot change the number of permitted uses within a zoning district, and cannot create any nonconformities of any type. And so the local government cannot initiate that, we cannot enforce it. So again, as Mr. Smitherman said, it is constantly evolving. There are still many, many legal questions and parameters around this bill, how staff to deal with it. However, there are several efforts in the legislature, these bills that have been filed with the General Assembly, to repeal this section. So as mentioned in the resolution, HB 24 repeals the section entirely, goes back to what it was before December 2024, which was when the bill was passed, for all jurisdictions in North Carolina. So certainly that would be our approach, is everyone to be on the same level playing field. So no jurisdiction has special treatment over another. However, a parallel bill in the Senate, Senate Bill 27, was originally filed as Senate Bill 11, has several counties, to which Onslow is not one of them, where they would get the repealment, but everyone else would have to follow by the new set of rules. So the resolution before the board, and I can read it into the record if it's needed, speaks to essentially both aspects, and again, it's seeking support of House Bill 24 and that repealment, and Onslow being added to that Senate Bill 27. So Resolution 25, number 4, a resolution in support of HB 24 and requested addition to Senate Bill 27, an act to restore the authority of local governments to initiate downzoning, and an act to restore the authority to initiate downzoning in multiple counties. Whereas the North Carolina General Assembly will be considering House Bill 24 and provides for Section 3K.1 of State Law 2024-57 to be repealed. And whereas the North Carolina General Assembly will be considering Senate Bill 27, which provides for Section 3.K1 of State Law 2024-57 to be rewritten. And whereas the provisions within this legislation would be supportive of local governments to make their own zoning decisions based on the will of the voters that elected them. And whereas Session Law 2024, number 57, an act to make modifications to and provide additional appropriations for disaster recoveries to make technical, clarifying, and other modifications to the current Operations Appropriations Act of 2023, and to make various changes to the law, became law on the 11th of December 2024, notwithstanding the objections of the governor. And whereas Subpart 3K, Section 3K.1 of Senate Law 2024-57 reads, no local government initiated downzoning without the consent of the affected property owner. And whereas the passage of Session Law 2024-57 will severely affect the county's authority to adopt zoning text amendments and regulations related to residential zoning districts, the new law allows an override of the will of a governing board. And whereas all North Carolina governments continue to face challenges presented by growth and development, each local government zoning authority has historically provided a means to balance those challenges with the needs of the community based upon the will of the citizens as determined through elections. The downzoning provisions of Senate Law 2024 number 57 effectively freeze local government zoning and greatly diminish the role of local government granted by the Constitution of the state of North Carolina to manage growth and change consistent with the needs of its jurisdiction. Whereas Senate Bill 27 applies to multiple counties as stated in Section 2.1, and Onslow County is not listed in the draft bill. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners ask the General Assembly to secure the passage of the proposed House Bill 24 to restore the authority of local governments to initiate downzoning. And be it further resolved that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners asks the General Assembly to include the County of Onslow as one of the jurisdictions listed in 2.1 in Senate Bill 27 to restore the authority to initiate downzoning in multiple counties and secure Senate Bill 27's passage, adopted the 17th day of February 2025.
So we need a motion to.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, let me talk about that a little bit. I don't think any of us like to cause non-conforming uses or necessarily change people's zoning requirements without their permission. But the idea that that this legislation has placed on the county with well over 100,000 parcels of land in Onslow County, the idea that we wouldn't be able to change some of the zoning over 10, 20, 30 years from now to meet the needs of Onslow County and the citizens of Onslow County is really just outrageous. So I'm sure that somebody had an idea that this was a good idea when they passed it, but it really is going to hurt Onslow County and many other counties in the state of North Carolina if we don't get this changed. So I'm certainly in favor of this resolution.
Absolutely. Any further discussion? I think this was on the topic of a conversation at the legislative breakfast. Concerns coming from North Topsail Beach, Swansboro, as well as ourselves. So this is kind of supporting the rectifying this issue that the local counties and municipalities were there. So I see Mr. Byron, the mayor of Holly Ridge there, shaking his head as well. So we're glad to support this. And with that being said, we motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, motion carries. So let's make sure we've got what we're doing here. So I think we will move to the manager's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the board for adopting the strategic plan, which gives us your direction as to how you would like us to move this organization to address the challenges and opportunities in our community. Specifically, though, at your retreat and earlier this evening in consent, you pulled out 4 items of the strategic plan that you've directed us to get moving on now and make a priority of this, of our staff at this time during 2025 to move forward these 4 initiatives. And I wanted to speak to those for the public's benefit. The first is a community resource hub. The board will pursue a new active community hub to incorporate a new main library and museum to anchor a mix of county and external service providers to improve access to programming, events, and cultural experiences in North Carolina. The second initiative is indoor recreation facility. Onslow is the youngest county in North Carolina. It is the board's desire to design and construct an indoor recreation facility to provide increased opportunities for youth and adult sports, youth camps, and other indoor recreational activities. Comprehensive parks improvement. The board desires to improve and enhance access to park facilities and amenities for county residents. And then finally, you've directed us to increase communication efforts. The county will engage in innovative and new ways to communicate to increase transparency and educate community members about county services. These 4 priorities for 2025 were directly lifted from the strategic plan, and they are things that we plan to bring to you with consistent updates over the next year as we advance these priorities for the Board of Commissioners. Also, last week, we did have a meeting with the representatives of all of our municipalities, or most of our municipalities came, and presented the strategic plan to them and discussed how we were doing that and got their feedback on that, but also talked about our joint effort to develop a guide to Onslow's public services. I say public services instead of local governments because we also want to include our water system, our electrical providers, and others that provide critical infrastructure and human service needs for our citizens and our visitors. And that is something the Board of Commissioners has seen a preview of through our Commissioner's Guide to Onslow County Government. But we are, I would say 2 months from now, we'll be presenting a full guide to Onslow's public services. And with joint cooperation from all of our municipalities, be publishing that and making it available countywide. Finally, I bring to your attention REACH. This was given to me this morning by a group of library employees, and that is a pointer.
Okay, well, that initially when I first saw that, I thought.
I know, it's a pointer. But our library staff convened this morning for a REACH session. It was an all-employee meeting of library staff. They were all amped up. They had an hour preview. I think before we got there, they had passed out these REACH polls to symbolize our value set in Onslow County government, which is resilience, excellence, accountability, customer service, and honesty. Mr. Warren, Ms. Sanders, and I, along with Ms. Galloway, have tried to meet with every employee in our organization the last 75 days, and this is our last week of that engagement. And it has been a very enriching opportunity for us and for them to talk about how we represent ourselves on your behalf to all of our citizens and how we will exemplify these values as we go forward and use them every day in all the work we do. Thank you very much. Hope everyone has a good evening.
I need a couple of those, David.
Thank you, Mr. Smitherman. Commissioners' comments at this time. We'll start, Commissioner Carpenter, you want to start us off this evening?
Sure, because I'm a woman of few words tonight. Thank you all for coming tonight, and have a wonderful week.
All right, Commissioner Bennett?
Whoa, you caught me off guard there.
I mix it up. I need to maybe get into a routine to keep us all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight. You know, one of our big concerns here on the coast has always been the cost of our wind and hail insurance, which I suffer with just like all the rest of you do. And so tonight, I wanted to thank Commissioner Mike Causey for appointing me to the North Carolina Insurance Underwriting Association Board of Directors. So I don't know if I can make any difference in our wind and hail insurance pool, but I will certainly be advocating for the citizens of Onslow County in the North Carolina Underwriting Insurance Association. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis?
Sure. I would obviously thank you all for coming. We got a good turnout tonight. One comment is for the board. Mr. Green, I know you've been here a couple times. Pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment, all that, but I do feel like we have a nuisance situation here with what limited knowledge I have. And Mr. Green, I do believe you have probably more of a civil situation here with current things the way it's been explained to me from our attorney. But I do ask the board to consider and perhaps we need to strengthen our nuisance laws because I just don't think it's reasonable that we have this activity, loud activity going on after reasonable hours. And maybe reasonable to me is different than reasonable to someone else, but I think this board could define and perhaps help Mr. Green in that way with perhaps some nuisance ordinances that would help curve the shooting, at least get it during daylight hours or not during sleeping hours. Sheriff, you brought up Kathleen Marshall, is that correct? Has the board chair considered doing a proclamation for her as being a centurion?
We haven't had that brought to us, but I don't see why we wouldn't want to do that.
So I would bring that to the chair and ask for consideration for that. I think it's appropriate. Mr. Gartner, or is it Dr. Gardner? All right, well, I just want to say thank you. You did the presentation for the vision for the schools, and I did think it was very well done, very excellent. I still missing that one load chart I'd like to get from you, but just a well done 10-year plan. Really, I can visualize it, I can see it. I can see where you want the new schools. I would like to see a little bit more emphasis on Swansboro because, hey, I'm from Swansboro. So would love for you to look at that, tweak maybe a little bit, but I see where you're trying to relieve the Swansboro schools. But my bigger point is what an excellent job you guys did bringing that to us and presenting us a 10-year plan. So thank you. And I encourage the public to, is that available for the public to be able to see yet, or? Okay, because I just think it would give the public a very healthy knowledge of how y'all are trying to relieve some of the pressures on our schools. So I thank you for that. Conditional rezoning, I have a concern the way that happened tonight, and I'm a proponent of conditional rezoning, but I am concerned that we just took somebody that just went through the process. And we just told them, thank you for going through the process, but maybe there's something else different we can do with your property. And I don't think that's fair to the applicant. I would have liked to have seen us discuss conditional rezoning in a workshop and what the opportunities were there, and not to take a current applicant's rezoning request and use that as an example, and that really concerns me. And we made it public that's what we were doing, so that even concerns me more, that as a board we use them as an example, and I feel like that's not appropriate, and that conditional rezoning, again, I think is a great thing, but I don't think we should have used a current applicant to do that. Properties near municipalities and military impacts, I would ask that we consider, and I don't know if this has to be board policy or not, but that we would consider in our notification process, and perhaps, Mr. Carter, you already notify the military folks, I'm not sure, but I think it would be appropriate when we read this and we say, hey, this is in the Jacksonville Township or the Swansboro Township or the Richlands Township, that we would notify the planning departments for those folks so that they can notify their boards, notify the appropriate folks. I understand when you say that we're in different jurisdictions, and I really love that word that you said that, but much like the sheriff works with the different police departments in the different jurisdictions, I think we need as a county to work with the different jurisdictions. So with that, you may need policy change to affect that, and if that's the case, I would ask the board to consider that in a future workshop. And finally, Mr. Jamie, thank you for thinking ahead. Thank you for having a vision for the landfill and not just going day to day. Actually thinking to the future, keeping your mean time between failures as minimum as possible. And so I just respect that and appreciate that as you run it like a business, and that's to be admired. So thank you, Mr. Jamie. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Padgett?
I'll be a man a few words so we can move along. But thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate what everybody does. I appreciate what our staff done on strategic plan and how our county vision is moving forward. It's been a long time coming, and it's very needed. So thank you very much, and I hope y'all have a good night.
Vice Chairman?
Just a few comments. I'm not going to go and belabor what I said earlier, but I just want to reiterate, congratulations, David, on the strategic plan. It's nice to see an idea slowly develop and turn into a final product. And that's what it's about. And it took a lot of work. It took a lot of conversations. And you couldn't have picked a better person than Angie to run that. and I mean that sincerely. You guys done a wonderful job. Real quick, I just want to shout out to Kenyatta. Thank you for being here, sir. We've had many conversations in the past. I just want to say thank you for what you do for this community and what you stand for. It's an honor, and it's great to see you here. And also, I want to, Angela, good to see you here. She used to work with the county, and it's good to see her. And if you haven't noticed, she's at all our meetings, and I really appreciate you coming. You know, tonight, there was some, I'm going to kind of just summarize how I feel and how I view things. You know, some of the questions that we ask, whether it be for rezoning or whatever it is because they're legitimate questions. Okay, we have questions, we just need clarification, et cetera. Unfortunately, with rezoning issues and other issues, not everyone's going to agree on this board, plain and simple. You know, you present a problem to the board, you present your arguments, and then the board has to decide. We decide yay or nay. And whatever we decide, it's going to get somebody upset, especially if it doesn't go that way or go their way. Well, that's part of the business. That's part of why we have 7 commissioners and we have to vote for a majority. You know, you count to 4, there's 4 people that vote one way. That's the way the board goes, no matter what you vote. There are things that I didn't agree with, the board voted, but it's over with. Once they vote and the majority of my board members vote on something, it is my job as a commissioner, as a sitting member of this entity here, is to support the decision of the board and make the best of it. And that's the way things are. You know, when we sit here and listen to rezoning, and I've said this many times before in my past terms, rezoning issues can be very boring to most people. You know, people sit there and they go, man, this is really boring stuff. I mean, this is like stuff you would read in another room, if you know what I mean. But it's important to the people that are coming up for rezoning. It's important to these members, the family members, to their businesses. So we listen to it and we listen intently. And if we have strong reservations about something, we're going to vote our conscience, which we did tonight. And yay or nay, it's a decision that the board makes and we just move forward. So it is a process. I appreciate you guys coming here and sitting through all that. Because I know a lot of you, I look in the crowd and you're just kind of going, oh man, I'm ready to fall asleep. But the rezoning issue, they are important. And Mr. Metcalf, thank you for going to Raleigh today. Thank you for doing what you're doing in the planning board. It's commendable. You've taken something that's kind of complex and you've made it easy. In other words, rezoning for dummies is what you've done for the county commissioners, and I really appreciate that. Because I believe in straight talk. Just hit me in the eyes and tell me what it's about, and we'll be good to go. But other than that, real quick, 2 things. We're going through the budget process with the county. It's going to be a long process. This is now February. We have some workshops, am I correct, Mr. Smitherman, in the future? In reference to our budgets, in reference to our new goals, as far as commissioners are concerned. It's a think tank is basically what we do, and we have all the way up until June to get this approved. So there's going to be some discussion about this program, about that program, where we can make cuts. I, for one, believe in not raising taxes. I believe in making cuts if we can make cuts, kind of like do a Doge effect, and which I really respect, is that we look at areas that we can cut and save money and take that money and convert it elsewhere so you, the taxpayers, don't have to suffer the consequences of a pay or a tax increase. Because like I said, I'm adamantly against that. So just stay tuned. We're going to be busy for the next couple of months. And the last thing I want to say, if you haven't watched your weather, stay tuned. We have a winter advisory watch out there right now, believe it or not, and they're calling for 4.5 inches of snow on Wednesday and 1.25 inches on Thursday. Now, I don't know how true that is, but the latest weather forecast shows the front moving off the coast, which is going to hit the Outer Banks and possibly us. So it's kind of hard to believe that we're going to have snow again. But just keep that in mind. Keep checking your weather. Keep checking the progress. I'm sure if we get close to something and something comes out, our EOC will put a bulletin out as to what to look for. When I get that, I always put it on my Facebook page for a commissioner, and you can read it there. But just keep that in mind and just be safe. Other than that, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. References to ordinances and the shooting that Mr. Green's dealing with, I think as this board wants to look at something like that, without a doubt, we need to make sure that the sheriff and his team is in the room, because the sheriff will be the one that his team will have to enforce that ordinance. So we want to make sure whatever we do there falls in line with his thoughts and his leadership team's thoughts on that. I think that's imperative that that conversation take place, since it's going to be your men and women out there enforcing ordinances. And I think it's also important to do these things together. So we appreciate the things that we had there with Mary Grace. We appreciate you coming in and doing what you did. Mr. Smitherman made a point talking about the guide to local public services. Mayor Parnian is here from Holly Ridge. He was here for, I think, with our mayor, manager, chair, and manager meeting last week. And Angie Hoffman presented that in attendance that day. We had, I think it was North Topsail Beach, Holly Ridge, Jacksonville, Richlands, and the county all in attendance to that. And I thought there was some really good conversation of working together on some items and some things. And Mayor mentioned to wanting to build a strategic plan out in Holly Ridge and see how we do it, how ours turns out, and working that way. And then we got some feedback from some of the other municipalities that were there. And the feedback on the guide to local services was huge. Appreciated that, as that guide to local services would include not only the county, but each of the municipalities. And we're looking forward to that work. So it was good to have that team together working on that. As far as conditional rezoning and making an example for somebody tonight, I think that would be inappropriate to put my thoughts into what was going through my head and maybe Commissioner Padgett's head. I don't think that was what took place. And to say it along those lines is telling people what I'm thinking when I'm probably the most important person to tell you what I'm thinking. I think we do need to look at conditional rezoning. That will help out the rezoning and things that are taking place in Onslow County. And I think that will be a benefit for the people that are coming in to do that. Unfortunate that in the years this board has been together and others, that there's been lots of rezonings that have come to the table. And your vote's your vote, and I respect your vote, but don't create thoughts on the reasons for my vote and examples of someone else. I think that would be not appropriate. Amen. With that being said, we are going to go into a closed session. At the end of this, we'll have a motion to do that. We will come out of that closed session and we will adjourn our meeting at this time. So we will not return here, or we...
Right, and Mr. Chairman, just for the public's benefit, there won't be any business done after the closed session. You're welcome to stick around to watch us adjourn if you would like, but we don't want to keep you here and then just to watch us adjourn at the end. But we would do so from room 111 is
Right.
where we would adjourn from.
Right.
Make a motion.
So we're going to need a motion to go into closed session.
Make a motion to move into closed session.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? With that being said, we will be moving to room 111 for the closed session. We'll come out of the closed session in room 111, and we will adjourn from room 111. All in favor of going into closed session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, we're going into closed session.